Listen up, people. Manscaped have done it again. This time, it's the Chairman Pro, giving you a clean, close shave. The Chairman Pro is waterproof. The Chairman Pro has long-lasting battery life. And you use the code FTM20 and you will get 20% off of this product. Yeah, big up, people. 12 man's back. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you're listening around the world. I thought we'd do another Gooner to Gooner. There's a lot of Arsenal chat from last night. Please make sure you go and check it out. Arsenal Roundabout was back, an elite panel. Make sure you go and enjoy that one. And hit the like button, hit subscribe, and make sure you are checking out Manscaped. Manscaped.com, or click on the link in the description or the pinned comment. It will take you straight there and you will get 20% off. At the moment, it is the Chairman Pro. They also have the beard hedger and they've got performance packages as well in time for Christmas. So use the code FTM20, FTM20. You'll get 20% off of Manscaped. I've got one of my favourites on today. It's Rory. Rory, what are you telling me, bro? You good?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. It's nice to just be able to open social media and smile, not be drowned by negativity. So no, it's nice at the moment. It's good,
mate. There's always negativity, bro. Trust me. But you've got to at least go out to find it now, which is very different to how it was a couple of weeks ago. Look, man, it's been brilliant to watch Arsenal the last couple of games, and it sometimes frustrates me even more because I'm like, why can't we have just done that from minute one? Like, we know we can do that. It's so frustrating. Look, there's definitely circumstances that have prevented that, of course. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the last couple of games and what you've seen that's different in the last couple. Because for me, it was a joy to watch against Forest and Sporting Lisbon in comparison to some of the games we've seen in sort of October, September, and maybe even August, to be fair. So what was so different in the last couple of games that you've seen, Roz?
Yeah, I mean, so much. Like, it's like watching a completely different team. I think, obviously, Martin Odegaard's a massive difference maker, and we all know that, and we can talk about that. But I think there are a few of them. I think Timber at right back and Calafiori at left back again makes a massive difference. Like, our left-hand side has always looked at its best this season when Calafiori's played. Even when Odegaard was out, I felt like we started clicking a bit. Martinelli started clicking a bit during that kind of period against, like, Leicester, PSG, when Calafiori was playing. And then Timber at right back. Like, Thomas Partey did a good job covering at right back when he needed to. Ben White, we know, was carrying an injury. But the difference with Timber is the support he gives to Saka, like constantly overlapping, underlapping. And when you've got Odegaard back there as well, like Saka just has so much more freedom now. And I think when you've got a player of his quality, I mean, he's got, what, a goal and an assist in both of the last two games. So, yeah, that's made a difference. And then just the mentality. And that's the one thing in terms of what you were saying about how, like, why we couldn't have done this in the games before. I do feel like part of it was just a mentality thing. Like, yeah, we were missing Odegaard and we were missing players, but the last couple of games, it's like, oh, we've got Odegaard back, we can play now. And I kind of wish that we'd had that attitude a bit, even when we were without Odegaard, because I still think we were capable of playing like it. But no, it's just a joy to watch Arsenal again.
It is, mate. And you know what? The last two, it's been a joy, but it's been me relaxed as well, thinking, wow, this is what I know we can do. And a big factor for me is that right-hand side, Rory, right? I think our right-hand side is elite. I honestly do. I wish our left-hand side was elite. I think we're still trying to get that right. But our right-hand side is so good. And a lot of people will say it's Saka and Odegaard, and they deserve a lot of plaudits, particularly in the first half of both those games that we saw. But I think Timber has been electric, mate. I think he's been so good and so underappreciated, and perhaps not people have spoken about it enough. When Ben White got the news that he was going to be out for a while, I, like many, were like rolling my eyes thinking not another injury. But actually, when you've got the player of that quality coming in, I think he is our future right back. I have to say that. And I have to look at what Arteta's done there and think, yeah, there's a real reason that we brought this guy in, and people forgot how good he was. You know, I was really excited by this signing. And he was playing over at left back, and to be fair to him, was doing a good job over there. But he's a right back, and I'll tell you what, he takes us to another level in that position, Rory.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, yeah, the way he drives forward the ball, like even for the fifth goal we scored against Sporting, the way he just carried it all the way through midfield and laid it off to Marino, like, yeah, he's unbelievable. And this is post ACL Timber, so who knows what we might have had, like, if he never got that ACL injury. The only thing I'm worried about is how much we're going to have to use him over the next couple of months without Tomiyasu and Ben White, and hopefully, like, Arteta finds a way of kind of rotating him around. When we're 4-5-1 up, I'd quite like to see anyone come on at right back and kind of take some minutes off him. But yeah, and even defensively as well, his ability to defend against tricky wingers one-on-one it allows Saka to not have to concentrate so much on defending. Like I felt like in the Forest game, for example, against Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's a decent winger, quite a few times Timber was just kind of like I'm fine. You stay upfield to Saka, and again that allows Saka to have more freedom and be more impactful in attack, which is what we need him to do.
I think as well, Rory, there's a lot of people that get quite sensitive about their players and, oh my God, don't talk about my Ben like that and all this stuff. And I think, look, we want a squad, right? I'm not slating Ben White in the slightest. In fact, he's one of my favourites. I love the shit out of him. I love the fact that he's been one of our key players in the last couple of seasons. But I must just say, my eye test tells me that Timber is going to be a better right back than him. And I can't say that's against Ben White. I just think it's a compliment to the recruitment and then what we're trying to do to move us forward. So I don't think you're kind of shitting on White, as some people like to say. I think you're just looking and saying Timber's playing really, really well and it needs to be appreciated. And at the moment, it's great because that's what I want in every position, man. I want Ben White and Timber in the whole of our team. I want the whole of our team to be competing for places. And I think sometimes that's let us down over the last few seasons when you look at when Saliba got a knock and we couldn't cover him. And we've seen what happens when Odegaard goes out and when Saka goes out. So I think now looking at that is only going to be something that's stronger. But I wanted to touch on Martin Odegaard because there's a lot of people talking at the moment. I was driving home yesterday from London thinking, from the station thinking, oh, like what have I just heard? Odegaard being the best player in the world in his position right now. And Darren Bent, obviously he's a gooner, so he's got a bit biased for him. It was talking about it on Talk Sport. And a few other people were saying, no, it's Palmer, no, it's De Bruyne still, and Foden's got to get a mention, Bellingham, all these names. Look, I don't care whether he's the best in the world right now. All I know is he's top quality. And if you're being put in those same bracket as those names, you got to be doing something right. How good is he? And do you think he is one of the best in the world in his position?
Yeah, he is one of the best in the world in his position, 100%. And I think it's kind of difficult to compare him to like a Palmer because I think Odegaard does so much more within a game than is necessarily put on Palmer in terms of responsibility. The defensive work that he does, the way he leads the press, he's captaining the team, and creatively, yeah, he's unbelievable. So, yeah, he's one of the best in the world, and I feel like it's one of those where him being missing and having that injury, I think, is making people appreciate him all that much more because, you know, he's come back into the team and it's like a new signing, and the way that every single player around him, their level has gone up because he's back. I think that kind of says it all.
Yeah, it does. And I think when people talk about importance, he's certainly up there. He's been one of our most important. The reason I asked that is because, well, one, I heard it yesterday on the radio, being asked, is he the best in the world right now in his position? I was asked not long ago on the terrace with LB and Terry, like, do you think Palmer, you would rather have him in the side than Odegaard? And the only reason I leaned towards Palmer was just because he's delivering 30 goals and assists each season. That doesn't mean that you're shitting on the other. It's like, who's better, Messi or Ronaldo? When you say Messi, everyone thinks, oh, this guy don't rate Ronaldo. Like, it's nonsense. They're both unbelievable. But I think Odegaard technically is as if not more gifted. And I rate Palmer. I think he's ridiculously good. I can't believe that City have let him go, right? But I think when Odegaard have actually been put back into this side, you think, wow, there's stuff on the ball that he's done that I haven't seen Palmer do in terms of his weight of pass, his vision, his creativity. I think they're two very different players. I think his drive on the ball is quite different to Palmer's as well in terms of how he actually plays. But I think his link-up play and his partnership with Saka is the only reason that we still have a chance of delivering in the Premier League, because those two together, they do look the best in the league in terms of a partnership. Like, they have such an understanding, such a telepathy. To have both of them out when we had them out, not going to lie, man, it looked pretty scary how bad we were. Do you know what I mean? So they really are that important. And people talk about partnerships. Even Palmer and Jackson have delivered quite a good partnership. KDB and Haaland, of course, is probably the most that we've seen in the Premier League. But these two together fit. They always get me out of my seat, Rory.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable partnership. And obviously they've been playing, the amount of minutes that they've played together now over the last, 4 seasons has been crazy. And yeah, I think with Odegaard, the biggest benefit or asset that Odegaard's got is that in really tight, intricate spaces, he somehow finds a pass. He somehow finds a little flick or even that little to set up Saka's goal against Forest, just the little stutter and then rolling it forward. Like, I think people take that for granted, just how difficult it is to have that awareness and understanding all the time. And I think in terms of sort of a difference between Palmer and Odegaard is that I felt this season when Palmer's had to drop deeper a bit, which is what he's been doing kind of in some games, I feel like he doesn't have as much of a an impact on the game, whereas Odegaard is still able to impact the game from those sort of deeper positions. I think that's a fairly big difference. But yeah, as well, I just think we missed Odegaard's leadership, and he doesn't strike you as like a big vocal presence of a captain, like a traditional captain. But actually, you notice it's just the little things. It's geeing players up. He can tell when the game's lulling a bit, and he gets the fans and the players back up. So yeah, it's been massive for us. And if him and Saka can stay fit, I struggle to see a game where we're not going to create and score goals if both of them are on the pitch.
No, I agree with you. And, I was on TalkSport not long ago and they were saying, what do you think we've missed with Odegaard? And I kind of went through everything, if I'm honest, because it isn't just his leadership qualities. And I agree with you, he doesn't bar corners. He leads by example in a different way. But I also think his press, he leads by it. I also think that his vision and weight of pass is something we've missed. And just his natural creativity. And then, of course, his link-up play with everybody. And I think what he does, and I said this last night, I think he complements everybody else. I think Partey looks better when Odegaard's in the team. I think Rice looks better when Odegaard's in the team. Saka certainly does. I think Havertz is definitely available more, or it looks like he's more available. And Martinelli as well, because Odegaard can thread the ball through to him from that side as well. So I just think that we are definitely in that position, a much better side when he's in it. And, I don't really care so much about who's better than him right now. I think the question people should ask is, who would you take ahead of him right now? And you might say Bellingham, and you might say Foden on fire, and you might say KDB when he's fit. But if they're the only sort of players that you're putting ahead of him, we've got a hell of a talent on our hands. Where do you put him in terms of world football, and what bracket do you put him in, Odegaard?
Yeah, I mean, he's in the top bracket right now. I think even within those names, personally, I wouldn't take Palmer over him for the role that Odegaard has to do. Bellingham's kind of a different one. I mean, a team that had both of them in would be unbelievable. And then with De Bruyne, don't get me wrong, like prime Kevin De Bruyne at his peak, I don't know if we'll see a player in the next generation that'll match that. But Kevin De Bruyne now, without the legs, with the injuries, you'd probably rather have Odegaard in your squad than Kevin De Bruyne right now. So, yeah, he's right at the top.
No, he is. He's been phenomenal in the last few games. And we saw straight away when he's come into the team against Chelsea that we look just so much better. We look completely different. And I think there's definitely the reluctance to now just keep swinging crosses in the box, which in my opinion was getting really frustrating to watch. And I don't mind doing that in the last 20 minutes of a game when you've got to try and score a goal. But to have that from minute one and be your only kind of tactic was a bit of a madness, I think, from Mikel Arteta, to be honest. Look, Odegaard getting injured was a massive key part of why we'd struggled, right? But I look at the backup. I think Mikel Arteta has realised perhaps that even Nwaneri could have been used a little bit more, because we're starting to see now him getting more minutes, him coming on. And I've got to say, Rory, against Forest in particular, he just lifted everybody. And I know that he come on and he scored and he kind of made the goal to kill the game off, but he was so good, and he has been so good. I mean, I've seen him now at the Emirates in games against Bolton, where he was brilliant. And people will laugh because it's against Bolton, but he was by far head and shoulders the best player on the pitch, getting a brace. He came on against Leicester, believe it or not, when we were 2-2, and he actually lifted the crowd. We won the game 4-2. Obviously, the Forest goal that he come on, and even in the San Siro when he dropped the shoulder at a shot, and I know that it was went over and stuff like that, but the game against Preston, top bins, this guy is definitely, in my opinion, deserving reward of a start now. And it's getting to the stage where I think Mikel Arteta is starting to utilise him a little bit more. So do you think maybe that's been a light bulb moment, excuse the pun, for Mikel Arteta?
Yeah, it's such a difficult one to look back at, because I think what we're seeing now, I think he's played in or featured in 6 of the last 7 games, which is, but only for, 8 minutes here, 12 minutes there, other than the start that he had against Preston. And he looks electric, and he's the perfect sort of sub to bring on. Like the Forest game was a great example. We were 2-0 up, but we'd done that thing where we start sitting back, we start soaking up some pressure, and then he came on at 2-0 and lit us up again. And then we go 3-0 up, and the game's properly dead. It's like, with 10 minutes to go, you're sitting back at 2-0. If you do concede there, suddenly it's another one of those games where we feel nervous at the end of the game. So I think he's the perfect player to bring on in those situations. I feel like this was the plan for Nwaneri this season. Like if Arteta's dream for this season was probably to be giving Nwaneri these sorts of minutes on a regular basis, I think the Odegaard injury, it just put him into this kind of catch-22 where it's like, you just, if he had started, let's say he'd started a couple of those really intense Premier League games, he picked up an injury that kept him out for a few months. That hammers his development in like a really crucial season. So, yeah, I feel like Arteta maybe thought he was protecting him. He probably was protecting him. In hindsight, how many points did we drop that maybe we wouldn't have dropped if he'd started? Would the gamble have paid off? We'll never know, is the truth. But yeah, I just want to focus on what we've got now and what we're going to see in the upcoming games. And maybe it's difficult to look at games that you'd start him in, especially now that we've got Odegaard back, because I'm looking at games where we have to go on a run of winning every single game for at least the next kind of month, 6 weeks. Palace in the Carabao Cup is probably the game that I would start him in. And then, see how it goes. But as it is, for me, he's the first choice sub to come on now in pretty much any sort of game state. If we're chasing the game, I want him on. If we're leading and we want to add energy, you're bringing him on. So yeah, it's a great position to be in.
It is, and I think now when you look at the players that we have on the bench, finally we've got a fully fit squad. And my frustration was that when we got injuries, I felt like our bench was going to be weak, and I thought we were going to find that out around about February, March. We kind of unfortunately found it out September, October. It was a little bit too soon for my liking. But I think when you look at Trossard and Nwaneri coming on, two of the best subs to bring on right now. And I must say that in the Premier League, I think that super subs are quite underrated in football. I don't think people look at many Ole Gunnar Solskjaers over the last couple of decades and think, yeah, they're like Solskjaer was. There's only really Trossard I can think of that's one of the best 12-man that you can bring on. And I think Ethan's in that bracket now for Arsenal, certainly, because we're bringing him on and he's actually lifting or changing the game and making a difference. And something I wanted to touch on was something that Graham said the other day on with me and Lee. His relationship with Sterling is actually quite a solid one, it seems. And you might not know too much on the pitch because they're hardly playing together. But when they have, and they have been in the Carabao Cup games together or whatever, there's been a couple of assists already that Sterling's got for Ethan. And it does look like he kind of saw him as perhaps a role model. And unfortunately, we haven't really seen enough minutes from Sterling either to see what he's going to be like this season. And maybe that will change. But the relationship seems to be quite a strong bond. And I just wonder if Ethan grew up watching Raheem Sterling and has kind of got a lot of respect for him. And maybe there's more off the field stuff there that that people have noticed.
Yeah, I think it's a great environment for Nwaneri to be in. Like I think Arteta said last year, or it came out last year, that Odegaard had really taken Nwaneri under his wing, which I think is a great role model to have. And then, like you said, yes, Sterling coming in, he's got so much experience. And if he kind of sees Nwaneri as a kid that he can help develop, then I think it's great. And again, Sterling coming on against Forest looks sharp and is a natural sub that I'm happy for him to come on and give Saka 10, 15 minutes, rest at the end of the game. So between the two of them and Trossard, I think that's 3 really solid subs that you've got to bring on. Again, kind of in any game state, whether you're chasing it or holding on to a lead.
No, facts. So I think we should actually see a little bit more from Sterling, because I would rather be bringing on Sterling than Jesus. I've got to say it. I don't want to slag Jesus off too much, but I just kind of feel like he's struggling at the moment, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. I think that's the one big takeaway for me at the moment is there's one kind of outlier, and like you said, I don't want to dump on Jesus, but you've got Sterling that we're paying 100 grand a week. You've got Trossard on 90 grand a week. You've got Nwaneri on whatever wages he's on, and then you've got Jesus on 265 grand a week, and Jesus is probably 4th in the pecking order to come on as an attacking sub behind them. So yeah, I do think that's probably an issue. And I look at someone like Mateus Cunha as an example of someone that would kind of offer something similar to what pre-injury Jesus used to offer. That would be a massive level raiser on him. Don't know if that's the option, but yeah, Jesus is kind of the outlier at the moment in terms of what we're getting for our money.
No, I agree with you. I think £265,000 a week. I need to see a lot more from Gabby Jesus, and there's no doubt he's got ability. I just don't think this signing has quite worked out the way that some were hoping. So we'll see. Let's do some super chats. These two have come in. One from Dave says, "Hi Dan, why does everyone keep saying that Gabriel did the Gyökeres celebration? He did the Batman while Gyökeres is Bane. He simply means that Batman stops Bane." I mean, wow, I didn't even think of it like that. I just saw a Gyökeres celebration. I don't know what your thoughts are there, Rory.
Yeah, I have seen some people saying it was meant to be Batman, but it looked. I mean, I don't know why he would do that for Bamford.
No.
I don't know. For me, I think the more logical explanation was that he was getting one back for when they did the Granit Xhaka celebration at our ground, and it was a bit of a throwback to that. But either way, someone said it on Twitter, like the dopamine you get from a Gabriel goal is just unreal. Like seeing Gabriel score and then he runs to the corner flag in that way, like I love it, absolutely love it.
Mate, I think he's been unbelievable for us the last couple of seasons. I think he's underappreciated. I actually think in parts overall he's been better than Saliba. But Saliba just looks aesthetically pleasing on the ball, doesn't he? He's comfortable. Yeah. I'm not taking anything away. I think he's outstanding. But I think Gabriel just doesn't get a mention. And you know what, Rory? I'm cool with it. Because if it means he continues to play like that, doesn't play with any pressure, then so be it. People, we've got nearly 250 in here already. Make sure you do me a favour, hit the like button, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you're also subscribed to Rory Talks Football. All you got to do is click on the title, take you straight to his channel, and of course you can follow him on TikTok as well if you're not doing so already. This one comes in from Suj. He says, what Odegaard does better than most other number 10s is he brings the best out of others. The biggest sign is looking at the last 2 games and how free-flowing we played. Rice also looks better with Odegaard. That's a nice little segue, should I say, into our left-hand side, Rory, because I've got to be real with you. Me and Kenny Ken seem to have an argument weekly about who's better in the 6. I like Rice in the 6. I am not a fan of Rice in the 8. I don't really see him as our Fabregas or our Gerrard or our Lampard type. I just see him as a kind of Rodri for Arsenal, really. Not as good before everyone starts getting carried away, but certainly that kind of mould. The problem we got is Thomas Partey's been our best player this season, in my opinion, in that 6 role. So again, it's great to have because we've got competition in that position. But I wanted to kind of concentrate more on that left-hand side because I can see for the first time the future of our left-hand side now. I think there needs to be a level of sustainability and consistency on that left-hand side because we're chopping and changing it so much. I think he wants it to be Calafiori, Marino and Martinelli at the moment anyway. In the future, it might be we bring somebody else in on that left-hand side. But I've been impressed a little bit more so with Marino now that we're starting to see a bit more of him. I've also been impressed with Calafiori, particularly on the ball. I think he looks ridiculously comfortable. And Martinelli, great goal, I thought, the other night. I need to see a lot more from him, but hopefully we can now with a little bit of level of consistency. But I wanted to ask you on the performances of Marino, Rice and Calafiori on that left-hand side and whether you think that can flourish the likes of Martinelli.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's such an interesting, like the midfield is such an interesting conversation because I think I said a few days ago that for me, Marino starts and that I'm not overly bothered whether that means him starting instead of Rice or instead of Partey. And you get the people, there's no way Marino's a better player than Rice. And it's like, it's not about being a better player than Rice. It's being better suited to that role than Rice. And that is where I think there's a big difference. I think having a left-footed player for starters makes a massive difference. And it's such a subtle thing. But if Marino plays a ball in to Martinelli with his left foot, the ball's kind of curving inwards back in towards the pitch, which allows Martinelli to take it in his stride and drive into the box. When it's Rice, because it's curving away from the pitch, so often you'll see Martinelli has to slow down, receive the ball, and then face up. And it's a subtle difference, but it makes a massive difference to Martinelli's ability to drive into the box. So I think we're more balanced with Marino as that left 8. Now,
I agree. I actually agree. I think that the 8 position is actually quite an issue for Rice, but I've been banging that drum for a while, but not a lot of people agree.
No, I think it is, and again, it's not about who's the better player; it's about who works better, and then that leaves you in a conundrum between Rice and Partey because you've got the £105 million player who was certainly one of our best players last season versus Thomas Partey, who I think against most people's expectations has been one of our best outfield players consistently this season. So it's a good conundrum to have. The good thing is that it means that we can rest one of Marino, Rice and Partey for every game and rotate between them, which is good because last season Rice played far too many minutes. But yeah, I think probably at the moment our weakest midfield too, obviously assuming that Odegaard starts, the weakest one for me is Partey and Rice because I feel like it nullifies the left-hand side a little bit more. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
It is, and I think you're right. I actually agree with you a lot. I think Rice, Marino, Odegaard is probably the 3 that he wants to go with. And I don't blame him at the moment for playing Partey because he's probably been our best player this season. So it's really quite a difficult one for him to then go, right, Partey, can't really drop him at the moment. And when he's played him at right back, Rice, Marino, Odegaard for me is where I think he's tried to go. But of course, now that Ben White's there and Timber's got to play there, he's now playing part. And to be fair, I don't want Partey at right back either, to be honest. So, yeah. Look, in the chat, I have absolutely no idea why you're watching me and Rory if you don't like me and Rory. So just go. If you're not interested in what me and Rory are saying, you can go and watch something else. It's quite simple. I don't particularly like Coronation Street. I don't slag it off. I just don't watch it. So that's the way it is. Big up to everyone, though. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you're doing the same with Rory as well. Look, massive weekend. Well, particularly for Arsenal, but definitely for Liverpool and Manchester City. Before we come on to that game, we've got West Ham. It's the 5:30 kickoff. It's away. We put 6 past them last year. They're in a different position now, but some might say they're even in a worse position now. They have, however, just come off the back of a win against Newcastle, which I don't think anybody saw coming at St James's Park. That kind of sums up this season, really, bro, that we can go there and lose and they can go there and win. It's bizarre. What do you make of this weekend against West Ham, and what have you made of Lopetegui this season?
Yeah, West Ham have been surprisingly poor. It was probably the prediction I got the most wrong at the start of the season. I thought that, like, I looked at their transfer window. It seemed really good on paper, but they've been massively underwhelming. And then they go and pull that result out against Newcastle, which just completely came out of the blue. I did still feel like Newcastle created a fair amount of chances in that game and just didn't take any of them. So I'm still confident. And that's been West Ham's biggest problem this season, is that they look quite easy to score against. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if we don't win the game. I'm fully expecting us to go there and win. And ideally scoring quite a few goals again. I think a big thing is just keeping this rhythm that we're in now. You know, when we went through that period in like February, March, April, where we were just scoring 4, 5, 6 goals constantly, I want us to get back into that rhythm again. So yeah, it should be a relatively straightforward win. And then if it is, obviously we can just relax and enjoy the Sunday, which has got a lot of good games.
It really has. It really has. Team news. What do you expect? Because the teams that we played against Forest and Sporting Lisbon have been fantastic to watch. Do you expect to see any changes at the weekend, bro? Or do you think it'll be the same team?
Yeah, I expect it will be closer to the Sporting team. Obviously, that the team against Forest actually caught a lot of us off guard. I think it was surprising that Jesus and Trossard started. I would expect it to be closer to the Sporting game. I think Marino will probably come in, just because there's no reason for us not to rotate between him, Partey and Rice. And other than that, I expect us to go pretty much full strength. Obviously, we've got United in the week next week. But yeah, I'm not expecting anything crazy. Do
you think Partey will be dropped from Marino, or do you think it'll be Rice? Surely it'll be Partey, because Rice against West Ham. Surely that's got to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might be Rice, because I still don't think Rice is fully fit at the moment. So maybe it's Rice. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. It probably depends more what he wants to play against United, because United's the more difficult game. So maybe he drops Rice and then so that he can start Rice next midweek. Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, an interesting one, I think, and I do think he wants to bring Marino in somehow. But it's quite a good decision for him to have, because it's not easy for everyone to just waltz in at the moment, which is also a really good thing. Look, we should win comfortably. I don't think West Ham are doing much at the moment. They haven't got their best player in Kudus. I know they've just come off the back of a really good win, but they weren't outstanding against Newcastle. In fact, Lawless was pretty much meshing the group going, I can't believe we're winning, because they weren't great at all. And, you know, look, I think last season we were going through a period of time where we were absolutely blistering form. Let's hope it's the start of continuing that, because we have been on good form the last couple of games. And I just think Odegaard and Saka will be too much for them, and I think we'll have an opportunity to score some goals, which then leads us to the Sunday, which we said is going to be an important game. How do you see this Liverpool City game going, and what do you think is the best outcome as far as Arsenal are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult not to see Liverpool kind of beating them quite easily. Liverpool looked great against Madrid last night. Madrid have similar sort of defensive weaknesses to what City have got right now. So it is. I feel like logically Liverpool win the game. I want a draw. I know a lot of people want City to win because we're looking at Liverpool being the team that we've got to chase down, but I still just would never write off City. And I remember, I'm pretty sure last season, we almost had the exact same discussion as a fan base when City played Liverpool, and Liverpool were ahead, and certain fans wanted Liverpool to lose. And I remember thinking I wanted that to be a draw then, and it ended up being that actually, if Liverpool had beaten City, we might have won the league. But yeah, a draw for me would be the ideal result. I think if I don't know what that Konate injury at the end of yesterday's game was. If that's a significant injury, I think that could be a big blow. But yeah, if City play like they have been, Liverpool could comfortably score 3 or 4.
They could. They really could. And if I'm honest with you, I think they probably will.
Yeah.
But I don't actually think anything, as long as we win, I don't think anything is horrendous for us with that game. Because even if Liverpool win, it means Manchester City are pretty much out of a title race this early on. 11 points is a ridiculous amount. What it also means is that if there's a draw, it's probably the best result for us because both teams drop. And if Manchester City do win, then we manage to claw 3 points back off of Liverpool if we win against West Ham. So all 3 of those scenarios aren't bad, Rory, as long as we win. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because we can still be 9 points if we win and Liverpool win. But actually, it kind of puts a little bit of a gap between us and City then as well. So it's like, actually, this could be a really good weekend, and I hope that it will be. Look, I think that there's an opportunity for Liverpool to drop points. I just really like the way they're playing at the moment. And I must say, Arne Slot deserves a hell of a lot of credit now because the first few weeks, everybody kind of looked at Liverpool and thought, yeah, let's just calm down a little bit first. And it's not Klopp. They haven't played anyone yet. And now they've kind of answered a lot of critics, and they've definitely answered the questions if they haven't played anyone, because they played us, they played Chelsea, they played Real Madrid, they played Bayer Leverkusen. They just keep winning. I think the biggest compliment I can give him is that he's been quite relaxed, he's been calm, he's been collected. There's been nothing about Arne Slot that I look at that looks rash or emotional. He just seems to be ticking over and getting the job done. And it does help that Mo Salah is on absolute elite form at the moment as well. So what have you made of Liverpool, bro?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The difference for me between last year and this year is last year, a lot of Liverpool were picking up points, but a lot of those games, it felt like they were like they had to either come from behind or they were, every game felt like a really intense game for them. Whereas this season, it doesn't so much. Like even last night against Madrid, it didn't feel like a really high intensity game. And I think long term, that will serve them well in a title race. Like, you know, we saw towards the end of last season, they did eventually, you know, everyone said it was unsustainable and eventually it wasn't unsustainable. The way I look at them this season doesn't feel as unsustainable. So no, Arne Slot's done an excellent job. Obviously, listen, he's come in and inherited a better team than most managers would ever inherit, but it's not an easy job to keep the players playing at a similar level whilst also subtly changing the way that they play. And for me, the big thing that is the sign of a great coach is what he's managing to get out of players like Luis Diaz and Ryan Gravenberch, who last season, you know, Klopp was struggling to get a tune out of. He's come in and really changed everyone's perspective of those players. So I think that's, you know, I think he's a top manager. I think he's done a really good job. And let people talk about, oh, well, what does it mean if Arne Slot wins in his first season? It means he's a great manager that inherited a great team, and Liverpool will be a force going forward. So, yeah, it's impressive.
No, it really is, and I totally agree with you that he's got 20% better out of the likes of Diaz and Curtis Jones, etc. So I think that is definitely something that we need to appreciate, and I think they need to be taken seriously now. I think there was definitely enough football fans, not just Arsenal fans, that looked at Liverpool and wrote them off and said, "Oh, fifth this season, it was Klopp the effect." I think people have underappreciated and underrated how good they are in terms of the team. They've got 4 world-class players that would walk into most 11s in the world in Salah, Van Dijk, Trent and Alisson when they're all fit. And people have said they've got no injuries. Well, Jota and Alisson aren't fit at the moment for them, and they're still absolutely killing teams. I mean, like Real Madrid, for example. So look, that's absolutely got to be happening. Big up to Hooks as well. Absolute legend. He's rated absolute hero. Thank you so much, my bro. It says like the video and all of that. People, make sure that you do hit the like button. We've not hit 100 likes yet. Let's make sure we get over 100 likes. There's almost towards 400 of you in here now, so please make sure you do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe. Sue just says, come on community, hit the like and subscribe to Dan and Rory. It's free. It helps content creators grow and provides different takes on the games. We love it. That's definitely what it does. One, it helps us, but also me and Rory see the game very differently at times as well. So it's great to get him on and debate things Arsenal. Look, I think Liverpool right now are very, very, very well. They're in a very good position. Let's be real. I think they would be even surprised themselves to be 9 points clear of us and potentially go 11 points clear of Manchester City if they win. I kind of want to forward a little bit now to kind of give you a scenario. Let's say we're no longer in November, we're in March time. How many points do you think would be fair to say we're in a title race properly here? If we were 9 points, would that be too much for you, Rory, in March time? Do you think that if we're kind of what's the number? What's the magic number? I suppose, as I'm asking, is it 4? Is it 5? Is it more than that? Less than that? What are you saying?
Yeah, apologies if you could hear my dog kicking off in the
Your
background.
dog is a cool dog, man. I can say he's definitely getting involved, man.
Yeah, getting rowdy. I think for me, 5. 5 is the mark, because if we're 5 points behind, you only need Liverpool to drop any points in one game, right? They draw, that brings it back into 3, and then we go to Anfield with 3 games to go. So if you're 5 points behind, look, if they then go from March all the way through until we play them in the start of May or the end of April, they go through that period without dropping a single point, and then we can't catch them, then you've got to hold your hands up and say fair enough. If we've pushed them all the way and they've sustained it, then look, they'll be deserving of a title. But yeah, if we're within 5 at that point, they're one result away from us being within 3. And if we're within 3, then it goes back into our hands. Look, don't get me wrong, it would be an incredible effort to go to Anfield and beat them, but we would have the opportunity to do that. So yeah, I think 9 points at the moment, obviously it seems daunting. In the grand scheme of things, they've still got to play City twice. They've got some tough away games at some of the bigger grounds. So yeah, it's not as horrific as 9 points would normally sound. And I'm confident. But the big pressure, I think, is on us to put a big run together that starts putting the pressure on. If we're winning every week and Liverpool are, looking at our results going, oh God, we can't shrug them off, then I think that'll help.
Look, they've got some tough games coming up, but they've already had some tough games. And I looked a few weeks ago and I thought, Villa, Arsenal, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen. They've still got Newcastle away. They've got, obviously, Everton, Fulham, Spurs. They keep winning, Rory. They keep winning, man. And if I'm honest with you, against Southampton, I didn't think they were great. I didn't think they were outstanding. Last night, they didn't have to be great against Real Madrid and Mbappe. That's a whole other story, if I'm honest with you. But I do think that they are a team that need to be taken seriously. They have got a problem, and it's Van Dijk, Salah, and Trent. They, in my opinion, all could leave, and it is a sackable offence for whoever's allowed that to happen. I actually think Trent probably will go to Real Madrid. I think Van Dijk and Salah may stay. Some of the comments that Salah has made lately means that I think he wants to stay if they were to offer him a contract. What do you make of all that, and where do you think the 3 of them will end up?
Yeah, I think Van Dijk and Salah will stay. I think Trent will go. I think it's an interesting one because you get to January. If they get to January and they've not signed new contracts, they're allowed to talk to other clubs. You don't really want to be in that position. Even if it doesn't amount to anything, you don't really want your players kind of flirting with the idea of going to another club. You don't want that to be on their mind. And if you start getting later into the season and it's still possible for them to get a big move, you then start getting into the realms of, are they 100% committed to every game, or are they worried that, well, if I get a big injury here, that might scupper a move away? So it's just, I'm not saying any of that will happen. It's not an ideal situation to be in. I don't think any Liverpool fan would want to be in that position. And yeah, I think Salah is probably the one that you go. He's going to be 33 in the summer, depending on how much he's asking for. Like, I can kind of understand why they're maybe hesitant to. Yeah, I don't know what he wants. If he wants like 400 grand a week, hesitant to give him a 3-year deal on that money that's going to take him from 33 to 36. We have seen previously players that kind of decline really quickly with age. I don't think Salah will do that because you look at him physically. It looks like he's in his absolute prime at the moment. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It's just one of those things. I think Trent goes to Madrid and the other 2 stay. But
that's what I think. And big up to Roms. That's what Roms thinks. And, he's the one on the channel enough to say that he thinks that Trent is the one that will go, which I think is an absolute criminal offence from their board, by the way. Letting a 25-year-old who's won everything in the game, who's a legend at your club, go for nothing.
I think going for free is poor, but yeah, well, we've done that sort of thing before. So,
well, I was just going to say, if that was us again, we'd be going mad. So Liverpool fans must be exactly the same. This is a great point from Kyle. Madrid should actually sign all 3 of them because they could do with all 3 of them: Van Dijk, Salah, and I mean, anyone could do with all three of them, to be fair. But you get my point. Like they could all play at Real Madrid. Maybe Rodrigo is going to be the guy that you look at to say if Salah was to come. But I'd be surprised if Real Madrid wouldn't be interested in all three of them, to be honest with you. Big up to Max, absolute legend. I've seen you for ages, mate. Says, hey guys, great win against Sporting. My favourite two YouTubers. I think 4 is the magical number. City have crumbled. It's too funny. Stay humble, Haaland. Do you know what? I spoke to LB the other day, right? And he said, if you win the league, that is going to be one of the most famous memes ever. Stay humble for Haaland. It would be amazing, wouldn't it? I'd absolutely love that to happen, but we shall see. Look, it's going to be a run of games that Arsenal need to go on now. And I've got to be honest with you, bro. The fixtures, I'm not going to say they're easy, but they have become a lot kinder for Arsenal. From now until the 1st of January, we've got winnable fixtures, in my opinion. And some of those are massively important in terms of the cup games, Champions League games that we've got. But if we're just talking about Premier League games, we need to be winning them all. And I know people might say, whoa, you want to win them all? That's difficult. Yeah, of course it is. I'm not saying it's easy. But we should be beating West Ham. We should be beating Manchester United. We should be beating Everton. We should be beating Fulham, even if it's at Craven Cottage. I know it's tough. And I've said we could potentially drop there. But they just lost to Wolves 4-1 at home. Do you know what I mean? They're not in a great place, so maybe it's a good time to play them. Brentford away, Palace away, and obviously Ipswich as well at home. Those sort of games, Arsenal favourites in all of them. Doesn't mean we're going to win all of them, but we certainly should do. And I saw an interesting stat. It was actually Tom Canton who spoke to me about it. If we were to now drop only no more than 6 points between now and the 1st of January, we'd actually be in a better position than we was last year in terms of points in the league. Now, okay, that might not be enough because Liverpool could still be 9 points clear, right? But it gives you an idea of how we were similar last year in parts to how we were playing this year, if that makes sense, Rory.
Yeah. I saw another stat that at the start of 2024, like from the start of January up until whenever it was at the point that we lost this season, we won 21 games out of 26, which, if we do that again, if we picked up 21 wins and 5 draws and do that again, that would put us on 90 points at the end of the season. So we can do it. We'd have literally done it already this calendar year, gone on a run like that. So we are capable of doing it. And arguably, the fixtures that we've got left this season are probably easier. We don't have to go to the Etihad again as a big one. But yeah, it's one of those where there's not a single game up until, like you said, I mean, I think Brighton away is probably the next game that I look at and go, that is a difficult game that if we drop points, maybe you'd understand it. But other than that, any other game that we drop points in of those ones you mentioned, it's like, well, if you're dropping points in those games, you don't deserve to be winning a title, especially against the team that's playing as well as Liverpool is. So yeah, got to win them all, capable of winning them all, and I'd be really disappointed if we don't win them all. I think Sporting away was, when I looked at the fixtures between the last international break and that Brighton game, Sporting away was the one that, to me, looked like the hardest on paper. Yeah. We walked it, so.
Yeah, I agree, but you know what Arsenal are like.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Bournemouth away, we didn't think that we'd lose that one, so you never know what can happen in a game, but yeah.
No, absolutely not, mate. Absolutely not. And I'm with you. I'd be disappointed if any of those are losses or draws. Look, the other competitions that we're in are key this season, particularly. I mean, they're always key, but for me now more than ever, I think we need a trophy. Let's talk about the Champions League very quickly, because obviously the Sporting Lisbon game was phenomenal from us. We have dropped points against Atalanta and Inter Milan, but we still find ourselves 7th at the moment. And if you look at the top of that format, which, to be fair, I don't know how realistic or you look at that and what it does tell us story-wise, but pretty much all of the teams that we've played are in the top 7 with us. So I think that's probably even more impressive than Arsenal find himself in that position. Do you think now we've got 3 games left? I think it is. We've got Girona away and the other 2 are at home against Monaco and Dynamo Zagreb. Very disappointed if we don't go through in the top 8 now, Rory.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I actually think that we've done well to be in the top 8 with the games that we've played so far. We've played the hardest games that we're going to play. We went to Inter away, Atalanta away, Sporting away. Atalanta and Inter between them have played 10 games and only conceded 1 goal. Inter still haven't conceded a goal yet in the Champions League this season. So, and even that game away at Inter, and we did have a fair number of injuries, I still felt like we were unlucky to come away with a loss anyway. So, yeah, I think we've done well. And like you said, I think maximum we'll need is 7 points to guarantee finishing top 8. So you're looking at 2 wins and a draw. Look, Dinamo Zagreb at home should definitely be a win.
Yeah.
Monaco at home. Monaco have been decent this season, to be fair, in the Champions League. But again, I would expect us to win. And then Girona away. I mean, the way Girona are playing, they might be so far off the pace by the time that we play them that they can't even, because I think they've got Liverpool next and they're already down in like 30th or something. So they might not even be in the competition.
Do we play them last?
We played them last, yeah. Girona away is the last game. So it's very possible that they literally, like, even if they won that game, they'd still not even be in the top 24. So, yeah, I fully expect us to finish top 8, which I think would be big. And it frees up, you're looking at Man City are probably going to finish now in that gap between 9th and 24th. So that's going to be an extra 2 Champions League games for them is it January or the start of February next season? So yeah, I think we've done well.
Yeah, I think we've done well. And let me just get this format right. Am I right in saying that the 8 that go through will then face off against the 8 that are yet to go through in February? Is that how it works? Or
yes, yeah. So top 8 go through straight to the round of 16. Then 9th to 24th play against each other. I think the way that works is it's like 9th plays against 24th, 10th plays against 23rd.
Wow,
like that.
Okay.
Which is mad because at the moment that would mean I think Villa are in 9th and Real Madrid are in 24th. So Villa for finishing 9th would end up playing against Real Madrid in a knockout, which would be brutal. But yeah, so I think that's how it works. And then when you get to the round of 16, it's seeded as well. So the top 8 can't play against each other in the round of 16.
Okay.
So the top 8 are seeded, and then they draw the 8 that go through from that knockout round against them. So you put yourself in a really, really good position if you finish top 8. So it's more important, I think, than some people realise.
No, I agree. And I think actually it's been quite an exciting format. I know a lot of people don't like it. And I think what they don't like is if you play somebody and they beat you, you can't get revenge this time. That's what they don't like. So, for example, Inter Milan, I'd like to have played them at the Emirates, to be honest, because I think that's a good like kind of competition for us. But we don't get to do that. Having said that, I think I'd rather play Monaco and Zagreb and just go through. So I don't actually mind it either. You know what I mean? So as long as we beat them, that is. So I actually quite like the format. And I think what's interesting is you're now looking at other teams to see what they do. Whereas before, you only really cared about the other guys in your group. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I quite like it.
I love it. Now you're looking at it. You're like PSG aren't even in the top 24. Real Madrid are down in 24th. Every game week. Like, I feel like people have this weird nostalgia of the old group phase where they think that they were more interested in the group phase than they were. Realistically, unless you normally get like one group of death, which would be quite interesting. Other than that, you'd get the big team would top their group, the second best team in the group would come second, and then a couple of teams to fight out for them fourth. Like now, like even the night that we played, obviously we had our game, which was really entertaining. The City game was unbelievable. Like that night, Bayern played against PSG, and kind of no one even talked about it, and that's a big game. But there's so much interest in other games as well that people enjoy it. So yeah, I think it's great. And I also I get the whole like wanting to get revenge on a team if you drop points to them. But I enjoy the fact that we get 8 different games, like 8 different. I mean, I don't unfortunately go to the away games, but people get 4 different away trips to different places, and you get 8 different styles of games. So no, I like it.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it at all, to be honest. Yeah, it's frustrating that you played a couple of extra games because I think we play enough, but actually the format is definitely good. Some interesting comments in the chat coming in now. Imad says Man City and Real Madrid might be the match in the playoff extras. Can you imagine the quarterfinal of last year being the last 16? Sorry, not even that, the playoffs, I should say, to get into the last 16. A couple of people are getting confused. Mr. Mister says the top 8 go straight into the quarterfinals, but I think Kyle is right here with what he said. Sorry, Rory, go on.
No, I was going to say, yeah, if top 8 went into the quarterfinals, then that would be there's 8 teams in the quarterfinals. So the whole quarterfinals would just be the top 8 if that was the case.
Precisely, I think there is. But there is a lot of people, and that's not to slate on Mr. Mister. There's a lot of people that are getting confused by it because it's new. So it's, it's new. So people are still getting used to it and stuff like that. But listen, people, big up. There's well over 400 of you in here. Make sure you do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and make sure you do the same Also for Rory, just click on the link in his title. We'll take you straight to the channel. Andrew the Aussie says that Bournemouth defeat will haunt us, just like that Fulham and West Ham defeat of last year, which actually lost us the league. Round and round we go. I understand why people feel like that. I do. There's a lot of people that are talking about, last season's similarities of dropping points at West Ham and Fulham, and we went through that horrendous run, didn't we, around New Year? And then we kind of did a similar thing where we lost to Villa and Bayern Munich. The season before that, we were similar with the West Ham, Liverpool and Southampton games. And then we kind of did it before that as well. We were going for top four. We had Brighton, Palace and Southampton, I remember. So there's always this little cluster of results that Arsenal just have. And we need to sort our bounce back ability back. I love that word. Because we just don't do that enough. We seem to we drop points and then we drop it again and we drop it again. And it's like, come on, man, that's now 3 or 4 games we haven't won. I think it was the end. We went through pretty much the whole month without a win, didn't we? We beat Southampton and in the league we didn't win again until we beat, Forest. So I think that's been quite difficult. I wanted to lastly touch on something that everyone seems to want to talk about in November, the transfer window. And we are not talking about the summer one because that was a disaster in my opinion, but we're talking about the January one, which if I'm honest with you, the winter window I said last night is just January normally to Arsenal. We don't tend to do much. So Suja's put in a super chat to talk and touch and segue onto it. Ferguson is potentially available on loan. Evan Ferguson from Brighton. Would you go for him? The only catch, Premier League rules allows only 2 loan players, meaning that Sterling or Neto must go. Wow, didn't even think of that. That's a great super chat, a great comment. Look, Evan Ferguson, I want to get your thoughts on that because there was a lot of talk last night about who we should go for up top. Will we go for a 9? Should we go for a 9? And there was kind of the Evan Ferguson and Sesko talk, or there was the hype of Isak or Gyökeres. Do you think we're likely to get a 9 in January? Would you take those names? And what do you think is more realistic, Rory?
Yeah, I mean, I do think we go for a 9 at some point. I think it's been on Arteta's radar for a long, long time. He's just seemingly waiting a long time for the right one to come along. I think I'd be very surprised. I mean, I don't even know if you could get Sterling or Neto to go back. I don't even know if that's the sort of thing that you could do in January in terms of just cutting that loan short. With Ferguson, I also just don't know what you get out of a loan of Ferguson, who's a player that hasn't played many Premier League minutes anyway in the last sort of 12 months. And you're bringing him into a team where he'd have a lot to learn very quickly. And I'm not even convinced that he's at the level. I mean, I saw Hertzler, the Brighton manager today, was asked about rumours of Ferguson wanting to leave. And he kind of just said, Ferguson has his role in the squad and he should be happy with it. So and if you look at, Danny Welbeck is currently starting ahead of him. Well, if we mentioned bringing on Danny Welbeck on loan, I don't think people would be too happy about that. So it is. And then you're talking about him, maybe they still value him at 60 million, which I'm not sure where they're getting that valuation from. So no, look, we could go and get Isak or Gyökeres in January. I'd be shocked if we did that. Very shocked. I to be honest, I still think we're waiting for Sesko next summer. I think that is the club's current plans. And I'm not expecting anything in January, mainly based on the fact that Jason Ato is leading, is kind of taken over temporarily from Edu. Is he going to, realistically, are they going to give a guy who's got the temporary role the power to go and spend 70, 80 million in January on a player? Probably not. So yeah, I don't expect us to do much in January unless it's like a temporary loan player. Man, no, loans are difficult. That's the problem because that 2 loan thing. Yeah, I don't know. Unless we've got injuries, like significant injuries in the same position where we need to just go and get someone to fill a gap, I'd be surprised if we went and did anything.
I agree. Look, we've been linked with a couple of strikers. We've also been linked with a couple of attacking midfielders. Arne from Real Madrid is someone that's been mentioned, along with Brahim Diaz as well at Real Madrid. Look, I don't think we're going to do much, if I'm honest, unless, like you say, somebody gets a big injury. Let's just say, I don't know, Saliba gets a long-termer and we go and get another centre-half then. Or maybe we'll go and get something if if Odegaard or Saka was to get a knock. Unless that happens, I just don't see us doing anything. I think the most important point you raised was Edu leaving and not being replaced. With Jason Ato now being in interim charge, I don't think they're going to be doing much unless Arteta says, look, do your job, help me get this player in, and then we'll bring our sporting director in after that. Depends who that player is. I'd be very surprised if we went and lumped 70 million on Gyökeres. I think we might have the money. I don't think it's that's the issue. I just don't know that we're looking at that player. And I know everybody wants Isak, but we're not really linked with him massively. Likewise, Victor Gyökeres, we're not really linked with. And we have to remember that in the 5 years we've been here, the only two strikers we've ever been pretty much linked with as wanting to come to Arsenal are Vlahovic and Sesko. Now, it could be that we're still after both of them. I don't know. I have no idea. I think, like you, that Sesko is the guy that we want. And we're a little bit similarly to how Osimhen kind of signed that gentleman's agreement with Napoli. I kind of feel like that's what Sesko's done. And I think he's going to be an Arsenal player in the summer. That's what I think will happen. I don't want him. And I will say that. I'm not being harsh on him. I think he's a trash centre forward. But I certainly don't think that raises the level. I don't think he's better than Havertz. Let's just say that. Yeah. So I don't think that Sesko is the guy that's going to take us to the next level. But obviously, Mikel Arteta believes he is. He's also very young and he's got potential to be a good player. So I think that when you look at that, he's obviously looking to grow. But I don't really want potential anymore, Rory. I feel like we need to get somebody who's ready to hit the ground running. So that's where I'm kind of at with that one. But look, January, it's an interesting window. It always is. You know, they've been surprises before. Arshavin was a surprise. Jose Antonio Reyes was a surprise. Aubameyang was a surprise. If I'm honest with you, Trossard was a surprise as well, because I didn't see that one coming, if I'm honest. It kind of like overnight happened. So maybe there's something that we're doing behind the scenes that we don't know. If I'm honest with you, it might be that. Before I let you go, there's a lot of talk about Mikel Arteta's future this summer and what it might look like if we don't win something, and if we do win something. You've remained pretty consistent throughout, to be fair. You say that you would keep him whatever. You think he's the right guy for Arsenal. You think he's going to win us trophies in the years to come. If he doesn't win a trophy, though, Rory, there is going to be the question mark of what happens to him. I think he's going to stay either way, because I think the Kroenkes want to keep him. So I don't think it's really a conversation that we need to have for long, because I think he's staying whatever. I'm not going to ask you what you would do, because I know the answer, right? So instead, I'm going to ask you this. Do you understand why people might question the future of his position at the club if we were to fall off this season and not win any trophy?
Yeah, 100%. I think the people that say that, you know, if we don't win a trophy again this season, that they would want to move on and look for someone else, I 100% understand it. And, you know, I wouldn't argue with the opinion. I think that there has to be a point, right? You're always going to go from 100% of people want the manager to no percent of people want the manager. And I think if he doesn't win a trophy this season, then you're getting into that kind of middle range where a fair amount of people will want him to go and want him to be replaced. So, no, yeah, understand it. But for me, I think even if you just look at the way that we've played over the last couple of games, I know it's Forest and Sporting and maybe you don't think that they're top teams. But for me, I think he has the ability to get us playing like that consistently. I still think we need some more players. I still think the depth of the squad needs raising, and the injuries have kind of shown that. But I've seen what he's capable of doing and how he's capable of making us play. And I'm not convinced that there's necessarily many managers out there that would be available that would be better than that.
Is there an opportunity in your mind that if he feels he's overachieved, that he might walk? Because a lot of people were talking about there being similarities to what happened with Southgate at England. A lot of people compare the two managers. I happen to say I think he's levels ahead of Southgate, who I couldn't stand watching England. But I will say I appreciated Gareth in a way, because he kind of thought, I've tried, I failed, I'm going to go. I'd have a lot more respect for Arteta, I think, if he would do that. If he would say, look, I've tried all I can here. I've tried 3 times. I haven't got it. I haven't managed to get it across. I've done what I can. I'm leaving the club in a brilliant position, which he would be, by the way. And I'm going to leave, and you go and get somebody else. Do you think there's an opportunity that could happen? I know it sounds very negative here about would you sack him? When's he going to go? Is he going to walk? I don't mean it to come across like that. I'm just looking at scenarios in my head about what the future might be without Mikel Arteta if he was to do that. Do you think there's any kind of chance of that happening, Roy?
No, I think the difference in mentality between Arteta and Southgate, I think Arteta is an incredibly stubborn man. And I think if he feels like he can win something at Arsenal, which I think he definitely does, he will stay until he wins something at Arsenal. I think you'd have to kick him out. And from what I've heard, the club are fully behind him anyway. And we saw that even when he went through his worst period. We saw that clip on the Prime documentary where Kroenke sat down with him and was fully behind him. So I don't think that he would ever kind of give up on the job unless he genuinely felt like him leaving was for the betterment of the club. And it's the same with players when people say, oh, if you don't win a trophy this season, Saliba's going to leave and Saka's going to leave. I feel like, they've probably got an element of pride in themselves that actually it's on them to win. People always say, oh, well, they'll leave if they don't win. But they're the players that need to win. It's on them to win. You can't turn around as a squad and go, oh, the squad isn't good enough when you are the squad. So, yeah, I think we're going to win a trophy this season. I really do believe we will. And if we don't, people even said it last season. Oh, will the team be hungry enough to go again, or will 2 title races in a row that they've lost kind of demoralize them? I think we've seen this season, all right, results haven't necessarily gone for us, but there's no doubting that this squad is together and desperate to win something.
Yeah, look, I've got no doubt that the squad wants to win something. My question mark is, can this manager get us across the line? And unfortunately, I've still got no evidence that he can do that. And I really pray and hope with all my might that we win everything this season, right? I think if he challenges to the end and he wins a trophy, even if it is a Carabao Cup, because people poo-poo that, but I want to win that, cool, I'm happy. And people think, oh, we want him out. Dan wants Arteta out. No, I don't want Arteta out, because if he stays, it means we've won something, right? That was what I want. I want Arsenal to win. And yeah, there's stuff I not like that he does. I'm not a huge fan of him. I've got to be real. I don't think that he is an elite manager like people say that he might be. But I'd love him to prove me wrong, Rory. I'd love him to say, shove that in your face. That's what I'd love, because that's what I want. I want to be wrong here. Yeah, I want to be. Oh my God, I thought Mikel wasn't going to do it. He's just won us a treble, or he's just won us a Champions League. Well, that's what I want. Yeah, and then there are, look, I'm sure there's some section of the fan base that don't want that, because they don't want to be proven wrong, right? But I think there's definitely, for me, a section that 100% are behind him. But there's also a section like me that's like, I'm trying, I'm going every week home and away, but I'm really not seeing it in parts here. And that's where I'm kind of at. And no, a lot of it, my actual kind of concern actually doesn't raise with Mikel Arteta. It's actually higher than him. That's where my issue is. I actually think Mikel Arteta is doing his best job. I don't think Mikel Arteta is half-heartedly going into Arsenal thinking, I'll give it a go. I actually think he's genuinely doing his best, and I think he does love the club and wants to achieve. My problem is I'm not too sure that the Kroenkes have been great owners. That's just my opinion. Some people disagree. They think they've been brilliant because the money's there, etc. But I don't think when you look at that summer window, you can sit there and go, yeah, good luck, Arteta, because that is a shambles of a window. That's the thing. I think if the Kroenkes had Arteta's mindset, I think we'd have gone massive this summer. I think we'd have gone, right, we've come very close twice in a row. Now we put the foot down and we absolutely go for it. Whereas they were conservative in the summer. I expect we'll be conservative in January. So yeah, there are definitely questions to be asked of the club as a whole if we don't win a trophy this season. And again, I think with the Arteta thing, just for me, it's just a case of resetting now with a new manager. I don't know if it's the best. I mean, you could look at, if Slot wins, someone in the chat keeps saying if Slot wins, Arteta has to fuck off. I think it's interesting. So if Pep won again with 90 points and we got 89, it would be fine. But if Slot wins with 90 points and we get 89, it's not fine. It's kind of like, you can't necessarily control what other teams are doing. But then you could argue, well, if Slot's capable of coming into a team and winning in his first season, then how many other managers around the world would be able to come in and take on the Arsenal squad and win a trophy in their first season? Yeah. You don't know, and that's a fair point. And I know, people that are on my side of the fence often use the argument of who would you go and get, who's available, is there a better manager available? I probably wouldn't have thought that Arne Slot at Feyenoord was a better manager than Arteta and would be able to come in and win a Premier League. So, it's on both sides that you can get proven wrong, and you will get proven wrong. And look, someone's going to. That's for sure. Someone's going to,
Exactly. And I, pray that the people that want Arteta out are proven wrong. And I think anyone that genuinely supports the club should pray that the people that want Arteta out are proven wrong. Time will tell.
It will, mate. We'll definitely get to that in May. My last question, I do want to let you go because we've overrun an hour. I would like to try and keep it to an hour because I know you're busy. But Kyle was asking any news on the Edu replacement. I just quickly wanted to touch on that with you very quickly. I would like someone experienced. I'd like someone to come in who actually knows what they're doing. I don't really want it to be a Riziki or a Mertesacker, one of Mikel's mates. I'd much rather it be someone who's got a bit of experience. What's your thoughts on that quickly, mate?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know the sporting director world that well. I think it's something that, I know a few big names. I The one thing I would be interested in is seeing how Jason Ato actually gets on, because I know behind the scenes, Edu was kind of the face of a lot of what Jason Ato was doing in terms of he's been leading the recruitment team. And I know that had a big impact on like the Jury and Timber signing, for example. That was all kind of down to them being like, Mikel needs this player, and Arteta didn't even necessarily want Timber. So I would be interested to see, how it plays out. If he gets the January window, maybe see what happens, because continuity, I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. The one worry I have with going and getting like a big, renowned name is, will they butt heads with Arteta a bit too much? Like, I don't want someone to come in and really want to change everything and make a big like statement signing straight off the back without really settling in and stuff. So it's difficult. And like I said, I'm not going to pretend that I know that world, or it's not like I can look at a winger and say if I like the winger or not. It's a whole different world. So yeah, we'll see. But hopefully Jason Ato is at least capable in the short term, and see what happens from there, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's a load of names people are throwing at people, but most of the names that people want are all tucked up at clubs already, So
that's the thing. That's the thing. The one big one I don't want is someone like, I think Luis Campos is basically just a super agent kind of. So he's just really good friends, or has good relationships with some of the super agents that have some of the big players, which it can make it easier to sign them. But then also you end up in those situations where, like the David Luiz signing, where God knows what happened behind closed doors on that one. Like, I kind of don't want that, but yeah.
That was why I didn't like Raul Sanlehi, because he was in bed with that Kia Jarabskan guy who literally got us Luiz and wanted to get us Willian and wanted to get us Thiago Silva, who, to be fair, actually wouldn't have been a bad signing, to be fair, but he wanted to get those kind of players. And I just thought, I don't want someone like that. I want someone with a vision, not someone who just gets their mates to the club. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous. So that's where I'm at. Listen, bro, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed this chat. And shout your stuff out, man, what you got coming up and how people can follow you, bro.
Just Rory Talks Football on most social media platforms. It's just crazy at the moment, isn't it? We're playing every 3 or 4 days, so content everywhere. And appreciate you having me on again. Love it.
Nah, come on, man. Big up. You're always welcome, mate. Make sure you go follow Rory. Rory Talks Football. It's in the title. All you got to do is click there and go and sub. I'll be on Deluded's channel at 1. I'll be on Troops channel at 2, and then I'm back here at 4. So it's a busy day for me today. So I will see you back on here at 4 p.m, people. Make sure you go follow me on Deluded and Troops channel as well. And Rory, big up to you, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. Big up to all of you guys for all of your super chats as well. Make sure you do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe. Cheers for all of your comments, and we'll see you next time. Take care, people.